Welcome back on the AM show as we get into our big stories now, and we start from the front of the NDC's national elections. It's slated for Saturday, and we're going to see the likes of Asiedu Nketia, who has vowed to unseat Chairman Ofosu Ampofo, Sami Foto, as we know him. There are other contests, a string of contests. The General Secretaryship position, for example, we have Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno, a deputy in that role, who now wants to go one step further. We also have the likes of Fifi Kwete, Elvis Efria Ankra, all of them gunning for top slots in the party. But the question is, how will the chips fall? How will the cookie crumble at the end of Saturday? Is the mosquito going to be able to bite Ofosu Ampofo just as he did to Koku and Nidoho? In fact, Koku will be joining me in the studio on Saturday as we talk about the NDC and its fortunes. Or will Ofosu Ampofo's campaign tag, Kumuntuntum Preku, actually be what carries the day? We'll be getting into those details as we host our guests this morning, just to foreshadow what it looks like in terms of the competitiveness at this level for the National Democratic Congress. Shortly, we'll be joined by Professor Ransford Jampo, political scientist with the University of Ghana, who will be sharing his thoughts with us. We'll also have, alternatively, Evans Mensah, my colleague, head of our political desk, and he will also be walking us through what we can expect when it comes to the NDC's national elections. Let me quickly, before I get to Professor Jampo, let me just say a very good morning to Evans Mensah. Evans, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's good to have you, and I know the excitement is building as we anticipate what the NDC, which is putting itself forward as an alternative to this ruling administration, will do on Saturday. But let's even start from last weekend, when, in fact, the National Youth Organizer position and the Women's Organizer slots were available. What are your takeaways from there in terms of what we can expect on coming Saturday?
You know, in the lead up to this, one of the things that clearly had risen to the surface very strongly is how acrimonious the build-up has been. I mean, in my time covering politics political events for 19 years, this is possibly one of the most acrimonious build-ups to a Congress that you have. I mean, there have been others in the past, but you have to go significantly a bit into the past to find them. I mean, in recent history, this will rank way up there. Before last week, Saturday, we saw that pretty ugly tussle between Chairman Ofosu Ampofo and General Secretary Asiedu Nketia. The level of the washing of the dirty linen in public is astonishing, considering also how important the positions that they're holding are. I mean, if we consider Ofosu Ampofo as a national chairman, he's been in the party, been there and done that, and you consider General Secretary Asiedu Nketia, another star of the party, then you begin to wonder, they have done this many, many times, contested positions many, many times, very high, consequential positions in the party many, many times. And they will know, I'm pretty sure they've come up against opponents who were equally very strong and formidable. So you begin to wonder why there's such a bad blood between the two of them, to the point where they can't hide their resentment for the other. And it spills out into the open. The accusations, the counter-accusations. Let's talk about the press conference that was called of yesterday with the title Bombshell. So it is then no surprise that when you have the two leaders, the two senior-most persons at the helm of the party, national chairman, the general secretary, having such a dirty campaign, you begin to then not wonder too much why that then spilled over into the National Youth Organizer elections that we saw last Thursday, and then the violence that ensued there, because that's the youth level. They look up to the general secretary of the party. They look up to Ofosu Ampofo of the party, the national chairman of the party, and if they can have a decent campaign devoid of acrimony and bickering and insult and name calling, why do you expect the young ones, the youth wing of the party to have a different campaign. And I'm not surprised that we had such a violent outcome in last Saturday's election. We've seen the party condemn it, and they're hoping that it'll be different on Saturday. We all hope so, because we are going to be covering a Congress that we hope is simply down to the elections and let the best man or woman win.
All right. So you talk about this acrimony in the party and the tussle that has, engulfed the party. I'm sure no one will say that it doesn't bode some element of ill, because this is a party that considers itself, waiting to take over the reins of government, and it seems to be facing its own problems. But do you think, let's focus on the chairmanship race, for example. Do you think the reasons given by Asiedu Nketia justify his wanting to go for this position? He's spoken about the fact that Ofosu Ampofo has not been up to the task. In fact, that in the previous election petition, there were some things that had to be done, collation and the rest. He failed the party woefully. And there are a string of other things that have been mentioned by other people from the regions, saying that Ofosu Ampofo is not the man for the job, and that if they retain him, the party will lose again. Put that side by side with the calls, like Ofosu Ampofo himself has said, by President John Mahama and others, that Asiedu Nketia should not have contested him. I mean, where does that leave the party? Are those reasons justified? And is it going to create some sort of schism, a rift in the party, do you think, with your experience?
As far as the rift is concerned, I think the rift has been created. I shudder to imagine what will happen after Saturday, and because one of them will win. Both can win. There'll only be one winner there. And what happens with the loser? Will he concede? Will he work with the winner? That for me is a key thing. But then the justification of the reasons given, that's one thing that beats me, Benjamin. Because the two individuals involved here were responsible for one of the most significant, admirable performances of an opposition party ever in the Fourth Republican electoral history. Yes, the NDC didn't win the presidency. But if you compare 2016, their performance in 2016, to what they managed to pull in 2020, it is a remarkable improvement. And it's a massive positive that both of them should take credit for. One, the national chairman, the second, the general secretary. From a 2016 defeat of nearly 1 million votes to cutting down to 300,000 the next election. From a wiping out in parliament in 2016 to creating the first hang parliament in our Fourth Republican electoral history in 2020. Benji, that is a massive improvement. And instead of them both sharing the glory and talking about that part, and they have the momentum on their side going into the 2024 elections. So you begin to wonder, why such bitterness and the portrayal of a doom and gloom situation?
Right.
When actually they have a lot going for them. And they're taking the focus away from the positives and talking a lot more about the negative. And well, this is the nature of politics. But this is internal politics. I haven't seen much of taking advantage, taking credit for what happened in 2020. I have seen more of blame game going on. And when I spoke to, they should like something from a free young, when I interviewed him,
right,
he was careful to craft a message around the positives of 2020, and there were a lot of them, instead of looking at the negatives. And unfortunately, the general secretary and the national chairman are making it look, the glass, as you always say, half empty, which for me is a terrible campaigning strategy. It's almost to say that your ability to pull the other down further elevates you, which can prove disastrous in the end.
Right.
And so for me, that's how I see it.
Right. So in other words, instead of bickering, the party has a lot, in fact, to celebrate on the back of the successes post 2020 in the post 2016. That is in the 2020 elections on the parliamentary level in terms of presidential votes and all of that. But wouldn't you say that even as we've got to these crossroads in the party, so to speak, it is similar to some of the scenes we've seen in the MPP when it comes to the presidential slot and the differences, sometimes 16, 17 candidates. And foremost among them, Alan Kyerematen and Nanado back then, and now Alan Kyerematen and Dr. Bawumia, the vice president, if they go toe-to-toe. Some would say that, okay, that could also create division, but guess what? The parties don't really mind, do they? Quick thoughts on that before we move on to Professor Jampo.
I mean, but then that will be the presidential primary, and of course, I mean, presidential primaries should be pretty tough. But this is the internal national elections to elect national officers. This is not a presidential context. It's not a context of who will ultimately lead the party and be a flag bearer. And so I understand if a presidential primary, it's much more acrimonious going into the national elections. I mean, these individuals, two individuals, and the others are just seeking to lead a party. Eventually, when they elect the presidential candidate, he becomes a leader of the party.
Right.
Which the NDC constitution says.
Right. Just hold for me. Professor Jampo is a bit pressed. Let's bring him in, and I'll come right back to you. Bernice?
Right, Prof. Good morning to you. Hello, Professor Jampo.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Prof. So your quick thoughts on the NDC's elections, which will be happening tomorrow. We've heard and seen what happened over the weekend on Saturday. We've also seen some of what has happened with regards to the main contenders for the chairmanship race. That's Samuel Ofosu Ampofo and General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia. And that leaked audio, the NPP is saying they owe Ghanaians and the judiciary an apology for going to court when the party knew that there was really nothing to defend there. What are your quick thoughts on how this is likely to pan out for Saturday's event?
Well, first of all, I do not expect the violence that characterized last week's events to repeat itself in the conduct of the elections this weekend. I expect that by this time, people may have intervened and the elders within the party, I'm sure, may have spoken to all. And the experienced contenders themselves, I'm sure, may have spoken to their supporters that, look, you cannot embarrass yourself as a party that is seeking to get into power in the next election. So I do not expect violence again. I expect a healthy contest, and then an outcome that will be reflective of the wishes of the people. Politics in our part of the world, not only in our part of the world, but even in mature democracy, sometimes gets personal and emotional. And so, in that case, you may have certain occurrences, certain utterances in campaigning that you can describe as, the belt. And then they do occur here and there. And so I know that in the lead up to the elections expected to take place this Saturday, so many utterances and leaked videos and the tapes, have been played out there. They are all characteristics, of how developing democracies conduct their political and their electioneering campaigning. But I want to hope and believe that after this, they will be able to close their ranks and to end adversarial politics to forge ahead.
It's interesting you talk about forging ahead, because that was what I was going to follow up with. After he won or retained his position as youth organizer of the party, I'm talking about George Oparado, his victory speech connoted that of vengeance, saying, look, no one should come and talk to us about making amends. We all know what has happened. The leadership saw what happened here. We also heard from Hannah Bisu, who also sounded quite saddened by the turn of events, saying that she wasn't treated fairly and all that. What are the practical steps this party needs to take in order to make amends and deal with the cracks that have developed?
I will tell you that, if you look at the fact that somebody you were expecting to support you never supported you and all that, you tend to be a bit emotional and disappointed. And it is normal for such utterances to come, especially out from people who felt disappointed. But I can also believe that by this time, if you are not hearing the same combatants talking again publicly, it simply should tell you that some other powers beyond them, they have intervened and spoken to them, and that's why they are calm now. So I want to believe that even if it happens same on Saturday, there will be powers beyond the two key people and the others to intervene to be able to ensure that the all forge ahead and focus on their main ambition of winning power in the next election. So I don't see it as a big deal. People will be disappointed. People will not be happy. But at the end of the day, there are others whose interests are tied to the upcoming general election, and they would ensure that petty disunities and disappointments and emotions do not derail such interest. And so I want to believe that there will be cool heads, after the elections, regardless of how adversarial the campaigning will be or has been.
Benjamin here, Prof. I'd like to find out, you say you hope and believe they'll be able to close their ranks and that we wouldn't see the ugly scenes of the last...
I am saying so because Ofosu and Nketia are no longer talking. And I'm telling you that tells you that somebody somewhere has intervened and has spoken to them. And I expect that same powerful force or powerful forces and elders within the party to be alert that in case anything of the sort that happened last week happens again, they will be alert and act with alacrity just to be able to ensure that the unity and cohesion of the party is not sacrificed.
Well, to add to that equation, there's also a certain Sam Jatta George who also put out some stuff on social media. But we'll see how that pans out. I'd like to find out, though.
I'm sure he's not posting again.
Pardon me?
I'm sure he's not writing again.
Well...
Yeah, I'm sure he's not writing again. So, the party itself commits a political suicide if it allows some of these things to fester and to continue. They cannot allow that. And so it is in their own interest to quickly fight the fire once they know it starts to burn. Otherwise, they themselves will be affected, as a whole. And so it's important that some of these things happen. And I'm happy that, as I've noted, the combatants in the last elections held just last week are no longer talking. It tells you that some powerful forces in the party have intervened.
Let me find out from you. You said somewhere that some people would be disappointed with what happened last Saturday. But are you disappointed? And I premise my question on this. When we spoke about the MPP, when they had their National Delegates Conference and the problems that arose, we all shared our disappointment. Are you not disappointed with what happened the last time at the Youth and National Youth Organizer and Women's Organizer Conference? What was that for you? How disappointed were you?
Who in his right senses will be happy with what happened? Election is a contest of ideas. It's not about fighting and violence. And so I don't think this is a question that really begs for a response from me. I'm not happy, and I'm sure well-meaning Ghanaians, even including those who perpetrated the violence themselves, I'm sure the attention they have drawn to whatever they did, how bad it is, and they themselves may not be happy with what they did because it marks the image of the party. And so we are all not happy about some of these things because if they are not checked, then they may rear their ugly head in bigger elections and then would be threatening the relapse of our democracy. And so it's not something that must be entertained or countenanced in any way. And that's why I'm saying that I have the hope that it will. What happened last week wouldn't be a great rehearsal for what is going to happen on in the coming tomorrow.
Okay.
I want to hope and believe that these seasoned and experienced politicians will comport themselves to the point that they would also want to speak to their support base and followers. I am aware that the party leadership and the other top echelons within the party have spoken to all of them on the need for them to rather focus on a bigger agenda. And so because whether you like it or not, there will be victory, there will be defeat. But I want to believe that whoever wins and whoever is defeated will still play a role in their agenda to capture political power in the next election. And so they should be able to close their ranks immediately after tomorrow's event.
Okay, before Bernice brings in Alex Segbefia, who is Deputy Chairman, NDC Congress Planning Committee, I just want you to briefly, before we even get into the candidates, Asiedu Nketia versus Ofosu Ampofo, is it going to be a problem for the NDC with having these two bigwigs facing off like this? We've been told that there were some interventions to prevent this from happening, but it has happened. Is it going to be a bad omen for the NDC?
I don't believe so. When they declared their intentions, people felt that it was going to be bad. But it's a democracy. Political parties are supposed to be internally democratic. And so anyone who qualifies and wants to contest for whatever position is at liberty to do so. It becomes problematic when you don't manage the campaign well, and it becomes problematic when the campaign degenerates into schisms and violence and chaos. But if they will be able to guard against violence and they will be able to guard against schisms and disunity, I mean, it's not a big deal. They should go ahead and contest each other. But I know for sure that if anyone who gets defeated will still play a role, a big role in the party's quest to annex power in the next election. And so a defeat would not be so much painful for the one who gets defeated.
But let's come down to the General Secretary position. Fifi Kwete, Elvis Ifria Ankara, and the deputy now, Mr. Otokuno. What are the dynamics there for you, and how will they play out depending on who wins?
Well, it's also going to be a keenly contested election. You have a certain deputy general secretary, and you have Fifi Kwete of setting the record straight fame, former propaganda secretary, and you have Elvis Ifria Ankara, a very astute politician. They are fine gentlemen, and any of them can win, especially the two main contenders. I won't say two main contenders, there's three of them. All of them has what it takes to win. And at the end of the day, they are hopeful that the delegates among the NDC will give us the best candidate in their view. But any of them is competent enough to be able to perform the role of the General Secretary of the party. So it's not a bad, the assemblage of candidates for this position is not bad at all.
Do you see any one of them as having the stronger edge?
I know it, but at the moment I do not, because people also listen to some of us. I don't want to be seen to have created an uneven playing field for all of them, for any of them. So I know that at least one of them has a stronger edge.
Prof, let me put it this way: Do you think incumbency, at least as the deputy, will aid Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno?
Well, incumbency would aid, but at the same time, incumbency has its advantages. There are incumbency advantages, there are incumbency disadvantages. And so there are people who clearly may not like the existing regime or existing leadership. And in that case, if they are punishing the existing leadership, then incumbency becomes a disadvantage. But at the same time, being an incumbent person, you may have worked extensively with so many people who may now be delegates. And so it becomes also advantageous to you. But that is not to say that he necessarily would have the edge over the two of them. I'm not saying that because we don't want to give a fair advantage, to any of the three. But I want to believe that the three of them, regardless of whoever has an advantage, regardless of that, the three of them, any of them will be able to is most qualified to play or to serve as general secretary for the NDC.
Grateful that you could join us this morning. Professor Ransford Jampo is a political scientist for the University of Ghana, and he's been sharing his thoughts on the upcoming Delegates Congress of the NDC to elect national executives. We've been joined also by Alex Segbefia, Deputy Chairman of the NDC Congress Planning Committee. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
Exactly. How prepared are you? It's tomorrow. We've just barely got a few hours. What's happening? What final touches are you putting together for the Congress?
Well, we are happy with our preparations. Some regions have already started their journey towards Accra. That is the delegates. The accommodation has been sorted for them at what we call the Congress Village, and that is in Legon. And also at UPSA, and then we have also finishing off our touches to the actual venue, the stadium itself. We are setting up a NEC meeting this evening, when all the delegates and leaders of the delegates are present. And NEC will have a meeting, as is traditional and constitutional, this evening. And once that is in place, we've tightened up on our security. We have been round, and we've looked at security from the angle of making sure that T-shirts that are worn do not depict any particular person, so there will be no internal campaigning on the face of it. Within the perimeter of the stadium, there will be no posters on the outer or middle perimeter. That is fine, but on the in the inner perimeter, there will be no posters allowed for people who are campaigning. We have engaged the security based on what we know can happen, especially after last Saturday. And we are very quietly confident that all things are in place, and we are ready to go come tomorrow.
Right. So you're reported as saying that the chaos we saw last week was not as a result of a certain list, as widely speculated within the media space. You say that there were some persons in the hall who were not supposed to be there. They needed to be cleared, and that may have created the chaos that we saw. How are you ensuring that persons who make it to the stadium tomorrow are supposed to be there, and those who aren't supposed to be there do not find their way there?
First and foremost, even those who are supposed to be there are segregated into categories. So observers, for example, cannot go where delegates are, and delegates cannot come to where the observers are. And then those who are in the VVIP area cannot necessarily go to the other delegate zone, even though they are all delegates, but they cannot. The natural segregation which the stadium provides helps us with keeping people in different places. More importantly, if you do not have a tag, in other words, you don't fall into one of a number of categories that we have, you're not allowed into the stadium. So there is no ability for general supporters things to come into the stadium. The supporters of the aspirants are given observer tags. They have a finite number, and they will be monitored and will be in the observer area where they will be seated. So the stadium offers us some level of protection in that regard. It assists us in dealing with security, and we are grateful for that. And because of the fact that we've put in certain things in place, we are quietly confident once again that what happened on Saturday cannot repeat itself.
Right.
Mr. Segwefia, Benjamin here.
Sure,
Good to have you on board. I'd like to find out, so on the back of the dastardly scenes from the last engagement, the Congress, some 16 people were pointed to, in fact, with a bounty of about 10,000 cedis on each one of them.
Yes.
Any leads yet in terms of fishing them out? We've seen photos of these people. Any leads yet?
No. As you can imagine, I've been concentrating myself personally on this Congress. But we have opened our doors and we have informed the police and we've informed them that we are happy to assist in any way possible.
Are you assisting?
To apprehend these people.
Are you assisting?
And I know that the police are closing in, if I can put it that way, on various individuals. But beyond that, it is not in my place to comment further.
But
you say they are closing in on various individuals. My question was, are you assisting? What assistance have you given to the police?
That is at the regional level and at the district, not necessarily at the national, because these are people who may have been associated with people who are were there either at the regional level or, and when I say regional, I'm not talking of central region myself, I'm talking of people who came from various regions to vote. And as I said, I don't want to speculate on their sources or whatever, but I know that the advert that has gone out and inquiries that are being made, the police are confident that they are getting somewhere with it, and that is as far as I can go.
But Mr.
The question is best directed actually at the police.
Right, sure. But a quick follow-up. Does the party know who these people came there with or who they came to support?
When you say the party, if you're asking me, I don't know them, but I cannot speak for the party at this stage.
Right, but you're chairman of the planning committee. Were you aware if they came there with anybody or they came to offer their support to anybody?
I'm not aware. I can't speak. You're asking me to speculate, and I said
no. I'm not asking you. I'm just asking if you know. I'm just asking
no, I don't.
If you know.
I don't.
All right, sure.
I really and truly, honestly speaking, I don't. There are all kinds of rumors as to who or who may. What I can tell you is that it was believed that two groups clashed. As to who or how, when, who they are, what they brought, I can't answer.
Right. Let me go back to that development. So I've interacted with some of your party people. They've spoken about beefing up the police presence and all of that you had between 80 to 100 police officers, and you expected them to be able to handle the situation. In that respect, what is the party planning on doing on Saturday?
Well, with security, you don't give out your information because then people plan against it. So all
but I mean, if the numbers are going to be increased, that is something you can mention as a way of,
somebody else can mention it. I wouldn't. I'm saying that the police are aware, the security are aware, the numbers are there to take care of what we've done. It's two different events. We have 10,000 people this time, and we had 2,000 people, just the delegates, or 2,500 total. Even though there are 10,000, 9,000 delegates, we are expecting something in the region of 12,000 to 15,000 people. So the security arrangements are totally different. And they are enhanced, is what I can say to you, enhanced because of the tension, because of what happened last Saturday, and we don't expect repetition to be allowed to occur.
So you can say, at least with some level of belief that tomorrow we will not see scenes similar to what I mean. I'm harping on that because look, bullets flew at a point. 3 people were injured.
Don't say
and all
that.
Of
a bullet flew, and a bullet didn't flew in anybody's direction. It was a warning shot given by a police officer, the bodyguard of a particular officer. So those are the facts. When you say bullets flew, there were no gunshots. There was a gunshot.
Well, there were scenes that necessitated the police to do that.
Well, if the particular police officer had been pushed to the ground, so his bodyguard immediately fired a warning shot, and that immediately diffused that particular situation. Yeah,
before we talk about tomorrow's event, I'd just like to find out from you, there's been some sort of scuffle between Sam George, Sami Jemfi, your party's mouthpiece, and Pablo Opariado on the back of last Saturday. Has that been resolved? Have the differences been ironed out now?
They've been all asked to cease fire, and I believe that is what is happening now. Everybody's been asked to cease fire. No more talks about it. Our focus is on Congress, and those matters or whatever differences should be dealt with through the proper channels. So I believe that former President Mahama actually invited two of the parties who are potential FEC members or FEC members elect. They will be appointed after this election. So the two were called because they have a greater responsibility. Sam George will be spoken subsequently through the parliamentarians, and everybody's been asked to cease fire. So that's, as far as I'm aware, has occurred, and there will be no chats on those matters further.
Oh, so those pictures we saw, so definitely Pablo had his interaction with the former president, and then Sami James
I'm just going by the same pictures. I'm not going on the basis that I know that it happened for a fact, but I believe that that would have happened because there has been a ceasefire.
Right. Before we look at, again, tomorrow, what we can expect, I just want to find out from you. You've heard that tape going round, leaked tape in terms of Asiedu Nketia and some comments and all of that. How is the party taking it? And some have taken you to the cleaners. Richard Ayangba of the MPP has said that, look, you should apologize to the nation as a party for leading us on a wild goose chase, so to speak, with the last election petition. How is the party viewing that?
Well, I'm not going to comment on those issues because at the end of the day, a lot of things are said when campaigns are going on. And it is not in my place now for me to dissect or say this. Why? Because you're talking to the referee. I'm going into a Congress as a referee. I'm deputy chair of a planning committee. And anything I say that would enhance a contestant or the opposite, denigrate a contestant, would not be appropriate or right. So actually, whatever even views are going around, even within the party, I can't comment because of my particular position. All we have said is that everybody should be more circumspect in the way they conduct the elections, about the party and about their opponents, in this case, their co-aspirants. So we have asked people to tone down on what they say and how they say it. And that goes generally to all of them. And that's as far as I can take it. There's going to be a postmortem quite clearly after the elections, and all these things will come up. And at that point, certain people will be in a better position to comment.
All right.
But at this stage, people like me cannot.
Finally, Mr. Segwefia, what can we look forward to tomorrow at the big one? What can people expect to see tomorrow?
Well, I think there'll be a lot of color. There'll be a lot of razzmatazz a bit in terms of the whole spectre and the whole this. And we are doing our best to ensure that we actually can stick to time. And I'm surprised you didn't ask me about that one, so I brought myself. And we want to ensure that we can actually get this within a better timing than other, congresses that we've held in the past, etc. So for us, timing is a big issue. That is what we are striving. As to the color and the speeches, and we think that it's something that everybody should tune in and watch and listen to, and would encourage those that don't have to be there not to come. If you are, and you're the outside, you don't have a tag, don't try and force your way in, that sort of thing. You will be resisted from doing that for good security reasons. So that is where we are with the Congress. And I would like to say that thanks to the media who have been covering it and following it, and also kudos to the police, especially for last Saturday and the way they dealt with things. And even though that incident seems to be the talk of it, it was a 5-10 minute incident in the course of a 12-hour period and longer that we were there. So we like to think that it was a success, all things being said. And we now have those elections out of the way. We wanted a resounding success. Tomorrow, we believe we will have one, and we know that you will be there. No doubt, you can interview me when you meet me on the ground.
Yeah, definitely we will be there. And the head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, will be running us through exactly how we will be covering this event. But before you go, finally from me, Mr. Segbefia, just quickly run us through what the program will look like tomorrow. Briefly, please.
Well, we have the first part, which is the opening ceremony, where we go through the normal speeches, introduction, and deal with certain formats and groups or committees that have to be put in place and the standing orders. Once that is done and you have the chairman of the party speaking, you have the flag bearer of the party speaking as well. So that more or less forms the part one. The part two deals with the general secretary now addressing us of the general secretary's report of the party over the last 4 years, and then also the treasurer's report, which covers that aspect. We have as the part of the part one, we have solidarity messages, but we also have Bernice, who is now the executive director, chair of executive director, I think it's not the secretary general, sorry, of the Socialist International, who will then also be giving us a solidarity message because now we actually have that position. She was elected less than 4 weeks ago. So that is for some of us a highlight. That's why I mentioned it. And then part two is as I said, the General Secretary and the Treasurer's report. And then we go straight into part three, which is the election itself, where we then hand over to the EC and the election is conducted. We have 17 different polling booths. Of those 17, you have Ashanti split into 3, A, B, and C. Greater Accra is into 2, A and B, and Eastern is into 2, A and B. So that basically is to ensure that we can enhance swift voting and we don't have to be there as long as sometimes we have been. And that is basically the program for the day.
Right.
Obviously, at the end, we will have a statement, we hope, from one of the unsuccessful candidates on behalf of the unsuccessful candidate. And then we'll have a statement from the newly elected chairman on behalf of the successful candidate.
Right. It's interesting. And when you mentioned solidarity messages, Benjamin and I remembered how the NDC delivered a solidarity message during the MPP's Congress. So we just wait to see what the MPP will do in response to that. But thank you, Mr. Segbefia, for your time this morning. We wish you all the best tomorrow. Back to you, Evans Mensah. So this is the election headquarters, and as we've done over the years, is to bring great coverage, covering every aspect. We are on the ground, we are on air, we are online. So just run the viewer through what tomorrow is going to look like and how we are going to bring them that experience.
So we start off at 8 a.m. And we're going to start off with a pile of research that we've done on the NDC and the various candidates. We're going to be walking through their history. We're going to look into a projection in terms of their own electoral fortunes in the party. And I'm looking forward to that because once and this is just a 1 hour program between 8 and 9. Once you're done with that, you'll get a fair sense of what we believe may happen in the course of the day. In fact, if you follow what we did in the NDC MPP's national conference, our predictions based on those analysis and the graphs and etc., everything checked out. And we intend to do same tomorrow. My team and I have done a bit of work on this in the last 2 weeks to get it right. And then we'll move into news file with something.
Evans, can you give us any sneak peeks ahead of tomorrow? Now you're holding all the cards to your chest. Give us a sneak peek. Come on.
No. I mean, I was listening to. I was tempted to interject when Professor Jumper was talking about the General Secretary contest, and I said, no, hold yourself. Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. But it's gonna be interesting. I remember. I think it was Bernice who asked him who he thinks, and he says, "Oh no, everybody's he was being diplomatic about it." But the facts and the research we've done does not put all of them on an equal footing. It doesn't. At least one person has an advantage over the rest. I mean, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. And we want to be basing this on the facts as we know it. And so, if you join us at 8, you find out for yourself. And then there's a news file. that will take over. Newsfile will be heavy on the NDC as well, the crossing over as and when key things are happening. Right after Newsfile will be yourself, Benji, taking the helm, and then our guests will begin to join us throughout the day. And then, of course, we're looking forward to the elections itself. And throughout the day, that research would inform the entire coverage. And so, Benji, you probably get a WhatsApp message or an email that would share with you the details of this. So you see today before close of day. That will help your coverage. And then, of course, we're waiting for the outcome as people queue and vote. We are hoping that there won't be incidents, there won't be, acrimony on the ground, etc. So that we'll just do very smooth sailing for everybody and to the end.
Hello, Evans.
Uh-oh.
It looks like we lost Evans there. Evans was just running us through what
we'll try to get him
definitely
back. And
so Benjamin and the team will
but I was
be
just going to add that we're hoping there will be no acrimony, but if there is, we'll be on hand to cover it.
Yes.
and
to let you in
nothing will be hidden.
Obviously, like I say, okay, great. We have Evans back. Sorry, Evans, we lost you there. So you were just...
Yes, forgive me. Yeah, so we're hoping there'll be no acrimony. And then at the end, the results will be declared. And then we'll do a quick post analysis, which for me, I'm looking forward to. Because this will give you a sense of the party's trajectory. I'm curious about something Alex Ekwefia said. That he said the flag bearer of the party will give a speech, but there's no flag bearer now. I mean, there is a 2020 flag bearer who...
I thought he said, Evans, that whoever is elected chairperson...
No. He did mention that the flag bearer...
I think that may have been a mistake. I don't know.
Yeah, probably a mistake.
He said, he said the chairman will speak, the general secretary will give an account, and then the flag bearer will also speak. And I find it very interesting that they're describing John Mahama as the flag bearer. I mean, you can imagine that for me, really, Benji, is one of the things to watch out for tomorrow. We haven't said that enough. It is the body. Remember, the Dr. Kwame Dufour's people are also setting up the Ahoto feeding program on the ground, and you're going to be feeding 3,000 delegates. And so for me, that is going to be one of the undercurrents to watch. This rivalry, undercurrent between John Mahama, who is going to be speaking, and I wonder how, so for me, that's one of the key things.
And the feeding is going to happen right there on the ground. So it's going to be like we are present, and your side is also present.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, John Mahama has been giving this $1 million plus to organize this, and so everybody's trying to do something to show that they are contributing. And remember that the much of the fight we've seen between Asiedu Nketia and Ofosu Ampofo is about who is the best John Mahama loyalist, who is most loyal to John Mahama. And everybody's trying to pitch his camp, pitch his tent in John Mahama's corner. And he's had to come out recently in a statement to say, I don't support anybody. I mean, so for me, that's going to be key. And the body language of the two will be interesting. And we're going to watch that. And the outcome of the election will tell you a lot about who is possibly, which of the two individuals, I guess, has the momentum on his side, depending on the outcome of the elections. We are looking forward to a great post-mortem. But that will end, by the way, with Probe. The Probe will do a proper dissection of this. And then, Benji, you're hosting that on Sunday, because then we'll get to see all the analysis proper after like a few hours of rest when the dust are settled. So that's our entire coverage, 360 coverage from tomorrow into Sunday.
Interesting. And like Evans has already mentioned, Benjamin will be here. The team on the ground will be led by MFA Apau.
Yep.
They will be there on the ground. And there will be a team here bringing you all the analysis and interviews with our guests and all that. There's also social media, which is very important, Benjamin and Evans, because there are many delegates or many party supporters and loyalists who wouldn't make it to the event, who may be sharing their thoughts on social media, who may be tweeting here and there. So would also be on social media, monitoring what's happening and letting you in on that as well. So this is what your election headquarters has to offer. The team led by Evans Mensah will be bringing you that comprehensive coverage.
Yeah. Anyway, Evans, we're really grateful that you took the time to join us. I can't wait for tomorrow morning so that you guys start sharing with us. We're all going to be finding out together with the rest of the world how this is going to shape up and what the predictions are. Evans together with Winston Amwa and the rest. Raymond Akwa also in there. Evans, thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Benjamin.
All right. And that's Evans Mensah, head of our political desk. We also had along the line Alex Segbefia, who is deputy chair organizing this event for the NDC. And we also had, joining the conversation earlier, Professor Ransford Jampo.
And it's important to just mention that we're going to have Asiedu, who is also
Dr.
Asiedu. We're going to have Dr. Asasante. You're going to have Koku Anyidoho, who you may know as a former member of the NDC, loyal to former President John Evans Tamils. You may have seen all that happened this year with the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the passing of former President
Mills.
Right. And so I'm just talking about Koku Anyidoho being one of our guests.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
He'll be speaking to me, actually.
Yes, exactly.
So tomorrow from noon to 3, I'm going to be here with the bull, Koku. And we'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that.
Right. So this is just by way of getting you prepped up for tomorrow, even as we prepare here on this side. Well, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform you that persons wishing to apply for VAT should do so via their online platform. So download the Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit the Taxpayer Service Centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that's TIN, of the institution or organization on requesting the certificate so that they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Contact the GRA toll-free number 0800 900 110 or contact the GRA via these WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664 or send an email to gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. The GRA also wishes to inform you, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that is VAT, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system of VAT, referred to as EVAT. This involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT-registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Taxpayers who do not have an invoicing system will be required to issue invoices using the GRA's certified invoicing system at no cost. Kindly once again contact the GRA's toll-free 0800 900 110 or via WhatsApp on 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664.